when I was developing in Flutterflow, the 95% would take me hour and a half, 2 hours. And then that last 5% where I didn't understand the technical configuration of something, a line of code that I needed to change, it would take me 5 hours to do the research for that.
Taking the leap of faith, it's not a small amount of money either, right? It's a pretty significant investment. What was that level of trust that you had to have in order for us to get a chance to work with you?
The first onboarding call, it was like I had 2 problems technically that I was working through, and I just could immediately, got suggestions and was able to work through things that I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to be. This is the standard or expectation around the type of expert development support you'll get. So I think the caliber and depth of, in substance, of the people that you have on your team, that I just couldn't speak highly enough, where you're really both hands-on technical, how do you, understand and QA API call, but also how do you really, really deeply at a human level understand the user.
Do you know how to code? Luke, thanks so much for taking the time to do this interview. You recently launched Irene into the App Store, and so I'd love to introduce you to the world. Do you mind telling the world who you are, what your background is, and how you came up with the idea for Irene?
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Alim. And pleasure to be here. So yeah, my name is Luke. My background is primarily in healthcare tech, more so on the product side historically, really focused more so on keeping people healthy and out of the hospital, using kind of tech and analytics to help keep people out of the hospital whenever possible, and bring down kind of the cost of care and manage outreach and things like that. So I also have been a youth pastor and have been surrounded by Christian therapists and kind of mental health workers for kind of the recent history. And my inner circle, 2 of my sisters are Christian therapists or counselors. One of my best friends is also a Christian therapist. So that's kind of been my echo chamber, or an area of interest, kind of the intersection of faith and mental health as well. So that's what Irene is focused on, and where it kind of brings together, my background in kind of tech and then Christian mental health. I can give more detail about really the genesis of the idea if you'll be tuned out.
Yeah, I'd love to. What was that aha moment, or what was that event that might have happened in your life where you were like, hey, I need to solve this problem, and an app is the best way to solve it?
Yeah, for sure. So it was fun. At the beginning of this year, I was going through a 90-day program that's called Exodus 90. That is effectively living 90 days and as a Benedictine monk. You're still in effectively your typical world, or going through your daily work processes, but there's you're effectively cutting out all of the kind of pleasures of life.
Wow.
And it's supposed to be like a dopamine reset or detox type of a thing, where it's like cold showers, you're fasting twice a week, no social media, no alcohol. It's like a proper reset to baseline. So I had like extra time and extra kind of mind space to think about like where are areas that have kind of more deeply been on my heart. And this at a similar time, just before that, OpenAI was coming out with the ChatGPT store, and had taken different courses on generative AI and how to build custom GPTs and things. So I was just kind of solving my own use case, where it was interesting to me to build tools, and with this context and who I'm surrounded by, that quickly help you reshift your mindset and take your thoughts captive, and can anchor kind of to God's truth when you're struggling with something in real time. So I started building these GPT models that were oriented around Christian mental health, and then I was kind of off to the races. I build out kind of a crude prototype, started getting early user feedback.
Oh, really?
People started liking it, having kind of breakthroughs.
I guess talk to me about that real quick. Like, what was that early user feedback like? Like, what were you asking people? Were you kind of telling people you had an idea for an app, or what were you going out and telling people?
Yeah, so I developed actually the prototype in Flutterflow pretty quickly.
Okay.
and just published it as a web-based
There you go.
application
Like that's a real
and
MVP
said,
right there. Nice job.
yeah, test early and often. It was very janky, but it's one of those, like, if you're getting positive feedback with a very janky UI and the actual experience and value they're getting out of the product, they're starting to see light bulbs go off, and there are breakthroughs. I mean, my whole thing is I want to help people get out of a funk. Like, if I'm stuck in this mental space that I don't even understand why these things are going on in my head, and I just need to process through it quickly, or there's something more chronically that's going on over time, how do I have a routine, a daily routine or approach to make progress on that? So, we saw early feedback was, some folks with like chronic pain or, working through various different addictions demonstrated early on that they were just going in and using it on a daily basis. And it's the middle of the night. They have nowhere else to go. It's available 24/7, and they're able to get real-time feedback, just even small nuggets of scripture that's exactly what they need. Or, here's a protocol you can put in place to help shift your thinking. Like, when you wake up, what's the first thing you're going to think about that will help you, start the day off right, and,
Sure.
and identify triggers that might be persisting in your life that are leading you down a road that's destructive, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
These are things these are things you must have learned from real therapists, right? Are you a therapist?
No, yeah, definitely not. It was kind of
So like, where did you
always,
get this domain expertise from? Were you like, interviewing therapists and like asking them what questions you should be answering? Like, how did you get the expertise to build this solution?
yeah, for sure. So I came out with a version 1 of instructions that I co-developed with one of my good friends, who's, co-founder and working on the app with me, who is a therapist, or
Okay.
is a MSW, like Masters of Social Work, and it has his own like Christian therapy practice. And both of my sisters as well, and one of my brother-in-laws are also,
Got it. So
Christian
that's where you got the expertise
MSWs.
from. I
Or
see. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of iterating on instructions and building out all of the, kind of safety protocols, and over time just learning where does it go kind of off the rails, and getting it to a point where now we really have a high degree of confidence that it is both, scripturally sound. For areas where it shouldn't be giving feedback, it's not giving feedback. It's performing very consistently. And I feel like it really evolved and matured at a perfect pace to really go live for kind of broad market availability. Now it's like 2.5 weeks after going live in the App Store. So I feel like we have the bugs worked out, and we've got the foundation, and now it's like the next phase of fun.
Yeah, I
And
mean, people think that it is over once you launch, but you're actually just getting started, and I'm sure you
yeah,
know that. But yeah, let's talk about the launch. So you had this idea, you came up with it, you built this prototype in Flutterflow. That was like your initial MVP, and then I guess like, did you get stuck? What were you struggling with, before you joined Dreams into Apps? Where were you in life at that point?
yeah, for sure. So it was, it seemed like this repetitive cycle or pattern where when I was developing in Flutterflow, I would get like 95% of the way to where I wanted to, press publish or update. And then I would, to your point, get stuck on something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would get, the 95% would take me 1.5 hours, 2 hours. And then that last 5% where I didn't understand the technical configuration of something, or if there was, a line of code that I needed to change, it would take me 5 hours to do the research for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a pretty, a black and white or obvious cost benefit analysis, where it's like, if I can get quick expert advice on that last 5%, that's going to save me hundreds of hours.
For sure.
As I think about the, trajectory of the next like 3 months in my mind of building out the app properly. So yeah, I had the functional prototype. I was trying to push it out to the App Store and kept getting caught in kind of Xcode edit land, and just not knowing like it. I didn't know what I didn't know. And in hindsight, if I had known a lot of the things that like Caleb and yourself and Kamish have helped me navigate through, the entire process that I probably spent 20 hours trying to figure out how to get the thing live in test flight would have taken, a half hour if I had just had the expert advice. So it was that. It was, after I developed the kind of level of trust and just doing my research, it was a pretty just, yeah, slam dunk value prop to be able to get real time expert advice to get me that last 5% of the way.
That's sweet. That's nice to hear. I guess, yeah, you said level of trust. And so like, that's one of the crazy, like the hardest parts about, taking the leap of faith. It's not a small amount of money either, right? It's a pretty significant investment. And so what was that level of trust that you had to have in order for, us to get a chance to work with you? Because I know you're not the only one that feels that way. There's dozens and dozens of people that we talk to every week who, yeah, just, I guess, don't have that trust or, they lack some sort of confidence. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a leap of faith to some degree, but it was going in, it's spending some time in the Discord, reviewing the apps that had launched. And, I was to a point where it was such a clear value proposition that even if there were issues or, I clearly didn't think it was a scam or, like that you weren't a legitimate organization that was trying to help people. I could tell. I watched a bunch of your YouTube videos that you were an authentic person and like just the underlying like ethos and your mission. It was kind of that I trusted you, frankly.
Okay, got
There's
you.
so much, like content. You've done such a good job of authentically presenting yourself in the world. Honestly, you remind me a couple of my friends and just the way you would respond to questions that are just so clear. I could see you can't fake really getting passionate and motivated by seeing other people's dreams come
For
to
sure.
reality, and you're so clearly like that is your jam.
Absolutely.
And
No, it totally is. And you're,
yeah.
yeah, it's really flattering, but it's interesting to hear that, yeah, the videos are what did it for you. And yeah, I mean, like, as you can see, we're dedicated to this all day, every day. Like we got 40 hours of coaching. We have the full-time team and, yeah, we just love this stuff.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is that the first onboarding call, it was like I had two problems technically that I was working through, and I just could immediately, got suggestions and was able to work through things that I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to be. This is the standard or expectation around the type of expert development support you'll get.
Mm,
That it was like once I had that, kind of confirmation or validation, that's like they're high quality engineers and developers that are helping with
yeah,
this stuff. And
absolutely. And they're like
experience.
no code focused too, which is the hardest part. It's like every coach
Yeah.
that we brought on were like Flutter Flow, like diehards and no code diehards. And so that's good. But I guess like the ugly, where could we improve? What was something that you were like, damn, like this was underwhelming or this wasn't as good as like I wish it could have been? Any like cold hard truth that you can tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this the last time that we talked, but I think it's, and this is to no fault of your own. I think as you continue to evolve, like the learning platform, it will smooth out, but it's just the software and the development platforms are evolving so rapidly that it's almost impossible to keep all the content up to date.
Oh yeah,
And it's like when you're working through the curriculum, it takes extra time that ideally if all you were if the content was actually coming directly from Flutterflow, and even when content is coming directly from Flutterflow, it's the
even
same
they
thing.
get
It's out of
outdated
date.
too. Yeah, for sure.
So it's always an impossible effort, but I mean it reinforces the value of having the expert developers that you can talk through those issues if there is something that needs to be updated, and you guys are very good about
Absolutely.
being receptive to feedback.
Yeah. I guess what'd you learn about business with us? Because like, yeah, like Flutterflow is one part of the product and one part of, building an app and launching a revenue generating piece of software. But like, what were some things about business that you learned inside the program that you are excited about now?
Yeah, man. So I, by background, working in product management, I very much so have seen and kind of owned the end-to-end cycle of building out a product from like ideation to release and maturity. But that looks so different when you're actually building every little piece and part of
For sure, for
functionality
sure.
and code iteration.
I hope it makes you a better
testing.
product manager too now, right? It's like, damn, like I
Infinitely.
really know
I appreciate it so much more.
for sure.
So yeah, it's that, and then also I haven't worked as much on direct to consumer
Okay.
and really understanding, just how to build, a user base one by one, making every user love the experience and not taking any. I mean, that's kind of a no brainer. But something Sandro mentioned early on is like, what is the soul level connection that a human has with your app, which is a weird thing to think about that you wouldn't usually. You're getting this. It just speaks to, I think, the caliber and depth of, like, in substance of the people that you have on your team, that I just couldn't speak highly enough, where you're really both hands-on technical. How do you, understand and QA API call, but also how do you really, really deeply at a human level understand the user? It's like that spectrum is this beautiful balance, and to get, both of those pieces right, I feel like I learned a lot technically. And there were areas where, like you said, it will make me a better, product exec, or really able to plug in and speak more directly to certain parts of the product lifecycle development. But also, yeah, just thinking about the human aspect of, especially the type of product that I'm building. Like, it does feel like a, fortuitous, serendipitous, like not just a coincidence type of thing that the people have gotten plugged in. Same thing with like Caleb, where he's working on other faith-based apps.
Yeah, he's got AI Bible
already
Buddy.
has,
Yeah.
There's naturally these like connections with people that are like-minded, that are a little bit ahead of you from a consumer go-to-market perspective, where you're really able to collaborate and think through what are the next couple steps ahead.
Yeah.
And bringing something that's more consumer oriented
No,
to market.
and as of lately, the community has gotten stronger than it's ever been. Like, we get on these coaching calls, right, in office hours, and people are like answering questions for the coaches, and it's like, wow, like we don't even get to speak a lot of the time, and you guys are all helping each other out. And then there's Phil doing like his own co-working now all the time and keeping that alive. So things have just been so different. Like, it's evolving every single month. There's something new going on that, like, and we've kind of lost control. Like, the community now has a mind of its own. All of y'all are like, pushing back and forth, giving us feedback, helping each other out. And we now are just like, at our level, like, just trying to apply all the feedback as fast as possible. But the biggest thing is, like, just like you said, redoing the learning platform. And that's been something that has been an ongoing project that we want to launch. But yeah, let's go back to Irene. Thank you so much for the feedback, by the way, and the compliments. I hope that, we still get a chance to work with you and keep you involved, and we don't want you to go anywhere. But so here on my phone, I have Irene pulled up, and I'm going to share my screen. It'd be cool if you could kind of walk me through what Irene does, and we'll just go through it step by step. I have one question for you, though, Luke. Do you know how to code?
I do not know how to code. I would say that I can QA code reasonably well, but by no means, no formal education. I've worked in low code, no code tooling for my full-time job. Just basic like JSON and some SQL, but no formal training. Very one-off, mostly as needed to step in somewhere historically. Yeah.
No, that's cool.
It's a wild place we are in history, that so much is possible, and frankly that you're able to learn what is happening at a code level while you're building in the front end, and how it speaks to each other. And I would reiterate the value of the program helping you understand all the concepts of end to end. It applies whether.
Do you feel like you have the skills now to like build another app end to end?
Probably. It depends on what the app is. I feel like there would probably be points where I still would, want someone's. It would be more efficient for me from just cost benefit analysis to have somebody help me again with the last like 1 or 2% of something to get unlocked. But
well, I mean, that's still consistent. Even if you did know how to code, like, just because you know how to write some code and you know the fundamentals, like, you still are constantly Googling stuff on Stack Overflow, and you're constantly looking at YouTube videos. So it's not like even if you know how to code, you don't need any help. I think help and like co-building is the future of building, where like just like having people to build with. I remember like when I was trying to quit my job back in 2022, like I would come home 7 p.m. after the gym, and then I would spend from 7 to 11:30 just building my app like in the dark, super alone, like no one to talk to. And I would just like have this in the back of my head, like, yo, I'm doing this so I can quit my job. I'm doing this because it's going to make money. I know there's a need. And you're just like consistently convincing yourself that like, this is what needs to be done. But it's really hard when there's like nobody else around you. So I just think like having community is a must. Tell me about Irene. It says here, Irene is a Christian counseling AI app. Your tagline says Christian mental health well-being AI. Tell me more about what I should be thinking when I see your App Store screenshots.
Yep. So I think the basic punchline is, so we all, struggle with various, issues in our life. We all struggle with, I don't want to necessarily say suffering in silence. There's various degrees of that, but we all have random kind of thoughts that we need to have better kind of ownership over, I would say. And so the basic, problem that Irene solves is, I would kind of organize it at a macro level as, there's a mental health care shortage, or we're in a mental health care crisis to some degree, and there's all kinds of literature written on that. And there are, shortages of mental health care providers. But then the more, granular use case is like, how do I incorporate, tools if I'm waiting to get in to see a therapist, or if I am more introverted and have a harder time opening up to someone? How do I, get a similar value, or how do I start my journey, my mental health journey, in a place that feels comfortable, that's unbiased, with, someone that's available 24/7, or with, a support service that's available 24/7. So it's really oriented, and the problem that I solve for myself is around quick resets or longer form sessions. So if I have, say, a minute to 5 minutes in between a meeting or something, and I'm have a lot of stress or anxiety going into the meeting, and just quickly need to reorient myself, I've designed prompts and quick resets that will help focus your mind on God, based on scriptural truth, based on prayer prompts, and quickly help you kind of pivot in that direction.
Very cool.
So yeah.
No, that's
And there's three basic kind of sections. I've designed it to be intentionally very simple as a version 1, and ideally as easy to navigate as possible. Where the first section, which we're just going through, is going to be, you want to just wait until you pull it up? Yeah, cool.
Go ahead. You want me to start here?
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. So yeah, walk me through this. Like, this is the homepage of your app. It says begin session with Irene by typing a message or clicking on one of the prompts below. So yeah, walk me through like your UI here.
Yep. So I've bifurcated this, based on user feedback and how I was, using the app personally, and kind of our power users, into either longer form sessions. So those would be, really like a 5 minute plus. I'm actually trying to process through something. There's an issue that's either kind of persisting, or I really want to think through and understand what's going on, and then get tailored feedback based on that, and think about putting together a longer term plan. Versus I've got, like I said, 1 to 5 minutes to do, like just a quick reset, or to help me based on the specific issue that I'm going through. I can say, I'm really stressed out because I've got 100 things that I need to, get done today, and I don't have time, whatever the issue is. Or I'm, combating a specific lie that keeps popping in my head that I don't even understand where that came from. It will quickly say, okay, that's the specific issue. Here's your antidote, or here's your midday reset, which is, a lot of these are structured in a basic, like pray, PRAY format. So pause, repent, ask, and yield.
And so these like paradigms, and like these paradigms that you're speaking of here, like these are things you probably got from the therapist that you're working with, and they helped you kind of design the delivery of the of like your apps. I'm not going to say Like they help you design the delivery of these meditations and these, therapies, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they've all been cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy
Okay.
are some of the more common like orientation around these things where it's like you're shifting your focus on when there's a thought or a pattern that is destructive and leading to behaviors you don't like. How do you shift that that pattern to something that's more sustainable and productive?
Right.
And in a Christian context, it's pointing to the perfect scripture to address the issue that I'm dealing with at this point, and then also combining that with
So I think
the
that's like, I
clinical
think that's
best
where
practice. Yeah,
so you have these like ChatGPT, like wrapper apps that people are talking about, right? And they're just like very thin layers over ChatGPT. But I feel like the ones that are going to win are the ones that incorporate like true scientific frameworks or proven frameworks, regardless of the industry that it's in, whether it's therapy or whether it's content or learning or what have you. Like I
yeah,
think combining the power of generative AI with like proven frameworks, and then of course like fine-tuned data or just like a little bit more structured data. I think that's where the apps are going to win. So the apps that have, some framework behind them, or these, pedagogical type of, frameworks, I think are the ones that have true like value. Does that make sense?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, much of the exercise of getting it to perform kind of consistently along with these practices. I mean, you're training it based on the best practices in literature for each of these different categories,
Mm-hmm.
and then over time observing where it's performing well and helping it guide in another direction. The other angle on it is creating sessions where it's like a week long, every day you're coming in to have a session, or over a say 30-day window. We've structured this to be in exact alignment with the best practices for
Yeah, so talk to me
what
about this.
you need
Okay,
to
so
do.
walk me through how I would use this one time. So this, what I see on your screen is like your core app loop. Like this is the screen that a user will open up every time they want to use your app, and then they'll go through and achieve the value that you've set out to solve for them. So walk me through how I would use this.
Yeah, so I typically will use just the quick resets where I'm like, for example, combating a lie is one of the prompts that I will use most frequently. And then, so there's also like a learning article that explains the context and the background around this. So you just enter any lie that you're dealing with, like, I don't deserve God's love. Let's not go that extreme, but let's just say I'm not doing enough to support, my community, or one of the kind of classic Enneagram 3, like I'm not doing enough to grow ambitious labs enough, or be supportive enough to someone in my life, or whatever. It's
Okay.
this constant narrative in your mind that I'm not doing enough. And so it's structured to give you, it's restating what the lie is. So reflecting back to you, and then saying, what's the counterfactual truth statement? And then 5 scriptures that specifically address the lie that you're dealing with. And, the more specific and realistic and deep, the lie is, the more helpful it is. I mean,
Mm,
there's power in just naming what the lie is, but then in real time having a Rolodex of scriptures you can go back to that you start to meditate and think about, um, just enables you to overcome that lie that it takes something that could spin out of control and have this kind of pernicious 5-day effect on you, that you keep hearing it over and over again. But if you stem the bleeding at the beginning and address the issue, then it helps you just overcome whatever that lie is that is potentially going to kind of overtake you in the foreseeable future. Anyway, so it builds that cycle and that pattern. So that's just kind of one example. The more common, like, I think how many people from a more traditional counseling, perspective would use this is if I'm going through a longer term issue, something like addiction, or I'm coming out of an abusive relationship or something, and it's really hard for me to talk about it, and I'm not I'm insecure. I feel guilt. I feel shame about it. Where is the first place that I can start having that conversation? So, or I'm struggling with peer comparison, or I mean, these things that everyone deals with naturally, that it provides a framework for you to have a 5 minute or longer form conversation that's kind of based on best practices in counseling and therapy.
No, totally. So here, like, that's really, really cool. I actually love the chat and I like the structure. We've talked about your spiritual breathing once before, but I'd love to get some of your insight here. Like, I think that the breathe section has so much value that, like, it could potentially be one of those situations where it's like you may notice that a lot of people are using the breathing feature more than maybe other features. But like, talk to me about these meditations that you've built out here.
Yep. So yeah, it's early, kind of we're expanding, or the plan is to, like, once a week come out with a new breathing module. We've kind of had a proof of concept across different short form and long form breathing exercises, where some of them are just quick 1 minute resets, all with a consistent voice and kind of calming music in the background. But the basic structure is that if I just got like 1 minute before I have a conversation with Irene, it's helpful to just reset my mind quickly. Or sometimes I don't need a conversation. I just need to be quiet and be filled with a good word. And either that is scripture, or anchoring on from different kind of Christian classics like Brother Lawrence, where it's taking the concept of it could be, so for Brother Lawrence, practicing the presence of God, a fairly short book, but distilling that down into like a 3-minute bite size, mental health oriented message. That is, I'm breathing, I'm resetting my mind on gratitude and enjoying the precious moments of whatever it is. It's like chop water, fetch wood. I'm enjoying the process of anything I would do in life and finding peace in the present moment and this reminder of it. So it's the basic concept is building out a catalog of Christian classics, along with like Bible stories, along with more clinical specific issues, like for specifically anxiety. You can have a series on anxiety, a series on like addiction, really soliciting user feedback on what they want me to build more of, and looking at the analytics around what folks are listening to, and then expanding it based on that. But I completely agree. A lot of the apps in this space are, I've noticed, just charging for the audio content, where it's like you're paying for access to the audio content and they give away the rest of the app. There are a bunch of different, as that continues to expand and evolve and the content catalog gets more robust, I do think that, yeah, I don't know, we'll experiment. It's fun. I love doing them. It's frankly kind of just a meditative, therapeutic thing for me.
Yeah,
and
you're like meditating.
Easier.
You're like meditating while you make the meditation, right? No,
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
yeah, that's really cool. It's like scratching your own itch. That's awesome. No, so congratulations. This app is super impressive, and as I actually embark on building my own kind of assistant-based app, like, I'm actually learning that it's very fun. It's definitely more challenging than I would have thought. But talk to me more about like your traction so far. So I know you've been doing some partnership stuff. I won't spill the beans. I'll let you do that. But I'd love to hear more about how many users you have, kind of where you are in the app, and how things are going, like, business-wise.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely still early. Like I said, we launched 2.5 weeks ago, and I wouldn't say it was even like a promoted external launch. It was a soft, I want to work through the bugs. I just let my internal users know. And, we've had a number of conversations, or are in discussions with organizations that are, focused on chronic pain management and addiction. And there's even a human trafficking use case that is super close to my heart, and would love more so than anything to serve. It'd be a privilege to serve that population with something like this, and think it could be a good fit. So there are just a lot of promising opportunities. It's around, and still, like literally yesterday, I just went live on socials and am starting to push out, like with the share feature. I'm writing people encouraging notes with Irene and like prayers, and then sending them to just about everyone I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like I'm just starting to promote it now.
Hey, that's pretty cool though. Like you're like sending them a piece of value from your app, and then including a link to the app. That's smart marketing for sure.
Yeah, cool. It's beautiful. And yeah, it's like a lot of this is about community. You're not going it alone. You want it to be interactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we have around 50 users. We've got a handful of paid users. Without promoting, I can't complain about that. It's early traction. And, I think a lot of the model really could be more oriented around business to business type of framework, where it's like subscription based for an entire, and building a more custom version of the app that's specifically for addiction and pain management, specifically for like human trafficking victims, that all of the content, the prompts. I mean, right now we have the prompts and the content being customized based on what your problems are that you select, but building that out, and like the multi-session versions of it, the more evolved, you're going through a week of sequential lessons or sequential sessions based on your needs specifically.
Yeah.
Based on the user feedback and use case.
So how many downloads do you have today, if you don't mind?
It's around 50.
Okay, nice. And did you put a paywall in the app? Are you going to be charging for it?
Yep. Yeah, I have paid users, which is a good thing. Yeah, a handful of paid users.
That's good.
That are like friends and family. But yeah,
And so it's been 2 weeks since you launched. You haven't really been promoting it. It takes about 2 weeks for the App Store to even index, on the App Store. So, I mean, I think that you have a really good ASO opportunity too, with like Christian AI, Christian AI therapy, and these types of really like focused keywords. So I think you have really strong opportunity to continue optimizing on your ASO and driving downloads there. AI Bible Buddy that Josh built gets like 1,000 or 2,000 downloads a month, and he doesn't do anything. And I think he just recently monetized it, and it's now making him money. So I think you have a really strong future ahead in that regard, like, because it's so niche. And then, yeah, like you've been launched for 2 weeks, you have 50 users, and you've started making money. So you have all the signs of a promising app where, back 5-10 years ago, before low code, no code, and you had to like actually code apps in Swift, like people would have killed to have the type of traction that you had today. So I think you're on the right track, and you shouldn't lose sight of that. Like you're on the App Store, and you have a really interesting product here. So you should be excited. I would be if I were you.
Yeah, man. It's a privilege to get to work on it. It's one of these things where it's, so aligned with all of my interests and passions and skill set, and combining all those things and getting to work with my, close friends and family towards something that is, deeply aligned with things I most care about. It's both an act of therapy and like worship and whatever for me, and just getting to pull it all together. It's cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. Congrats, Luke. That's sweet. I'm really like excited for you, and stoked that we got to be part of it. And yeah, I guess my last question is, and back to Dreams into Apps, would you recommend Dreams into Apps? And if so, who would you recommend it to?
Yeah, 100%. What I would say is definitely for people that are serious and by definition ambitious.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that are kind of self-starting. What I really liked about one of the kind of many things that I liked about the program, and it's kind of counterintuitive, is the balance between just having to learn something for yourself and getting expert feedback, where it's, you have expert development sessions. They will maybe not give just, oftentimes they do help you just get the answer, but it's spaced out enough that you're still learning and forced to be proactive. And as we we're talking about earlier, as an engineer developer, go find your own solution. where it's like there's a balance that seems like perfect. So it's like if you really want to learn that and have a propensity or interest in taking that mindset to proactive problem solving and learning a lot of this stuff, it's gonna be a great experience, and you will come out of it with a skill set that's like, I can go solve my own problems. You're teaching us to fish, to solve our own problems in a way
That's
that's
the
like,
goal. Learn how
yeah,
to fish so you don't have to buy fish. And you saw my last video about Upwork probably, and that's
yeah,
definitely not where I want people going. No,
yeah.
great.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
Thank you, Luke. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. And if anyone else is this far in the video, I will make sure to leave a link to your app in the description so people can download Irene. We'll definitely be making a bunch of shorts out of this and promoting your app. We actually just brought on a full-time shorts editor, and that person's job is like one job, just to make shorts out of everybody's apps and videos and just start promoting everyone's apps on our channel. So we're very excited about that. But yeah, man, thank you so much for trusting us. I wish you the best of luck and excited for you to stay part of the community, and we can help you grow too. Thanks, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, brother. Take care.